The Detroit Lions' first round of OTAs is officially in the books. After 3 days of practice with the team, 3 days of getting back with the coaching staff, and 3 days of really just getting into football shape, the Detroit Lions have a number of takeaways from even just the first training opportunities this offseason. And with them coming back in a few days for the second round of OTAs and then getting to mini camp and training camp, the NFL season isn't too far away. And with that being the case, we have a lot to talk about over the last 3 days. Quite a few takeaways about who's attending OTAs, who's not attending OTAs, who is injured throughout OTAs, and really a number of things to take a look at as the Lions approach their preseason schedule. But before we get into that, let's take a look quickly at some of the important dates coming up because things are going to ramp up very quickly for the Detroit Lions and the rest of the NFL. Of course, as we just mentioned, the Lions' first round of OTA stretched from May 28th to today on May 30th. Their second round will be from June 3rd to June 5th before getting a week off, coming back on June 10th for minicamp, and then having a couple of weeks before training camp officially begins in July. That's when the pads can come on. That's when they can start to really get into football shape and prepare for the NFL preseason. Now, getting into some of the takeaways, the Detroit Lions are pretty good when it comes to attendance. They had 88 of their 90-man roster attending in person for Detroit Lions OTAs. We don't know exactly who the two players that are out have been. However, it is being assumed that Alex Anzalone is one of them. Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell came out and said that, yeah, they have good attendance. They have just two players that have not been with the team, but he has been in contact with those players. He knows where those players are, know what they are doing and why they aren't attending. And he said that there is no concern about either situation affecting the players or the Detroit Lions' relationship with said players. Dan Campbell refused to answer which two players they were. However, like I said, it is being assumed that Alex Anzalone is one of them. With the contract holdout going on this offseason, he has been quite critical of the Detroit Lions schedule, has been noticeably absent from OTAs and team practices throughout the early stages of the offseason, and likely hasn't been with the Detroit Lions today. With that being said, I don't think it's a big concern. Much like Dan Campbell has been saying, this is just part of what the NFL is. It's part of players trying to get the most value out of their time and out of their talents. And Alex Anzalone is one of those players that is most certainly deserving. Got a 3-year extension 2 years ago, and this season would be the last year of his contract. Looking to get that extension, looking to secure his future is one of the most important things he can do for his team and for his family. He wants to get that done before OTAs. He doesn't want to risk a non-contact injury. He doesn't want to risk getting hurt at some point throughout OTAs because that could severely impact his financial future. And of course, nobody wants that to happen. The other player is simply unknown. It wasn't asked about. Dan Campbell didn't bring the player up by name. And while we do know a number of players that have been there, we don't know the exact player that was not. The big news coming out of camp, however, has been the players that are in attendance but have not been playing. There are 19 of them, most of them on the defensive line, a majority of them on the front seven, and really a lot of them just being precautionary tales. The 19 players that have been out for the Detroit Lions include Myles Adams, Broderick Martin, Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal, DJ Reader, Tyleik Williams, Mekhi Wingo, Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, and Malcolm Rodriguez. As I said, most of them being front seven type of players, and it's easy to see why some of these guys may not be back as of yet. Aleem McNeil tore his ACL late into the NFL season and likely won't be ready until Thanksgiving for the Lions. Guys like Josh Paschal have struggled with injuries. Tyleik Williams is struggling with an injury right now. Mekhi Wingo, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez all had gruesome knee injuries to end their 2024 campaigns. And really, there's no issue in giving the big players some rest, right? DJ Reader played almost every game for the Detroit Lions and was asked to do a lot last year. Giving him OTAs off, especially the first round of OTAs, isn't a very uncommon or unheard of thing. Aleem McNeil is coming back from injury, and while he may be ready to start, practicing with the team in very small, limited amounts, why force him to be back? Why force Levi Onwuzurike to do more than he did last year and force him to really not be there when he may not be ready to participate? Other players include Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch, Khalil Dorsey, Galvin Holmes in the secondary. Again, players that played a lot last year or maybe struggling with some injuries. Not a concern from Dan Campbell and shouldn't be a concern from NFL fans. Going to the offensive side of the ball, there are a few. Rookie Miles Frazier, the 5th-round pick from LSU, has yet to be practicing with the Lions and the team. Kenny Yeboah, the free agent tight end from the New York Jets, has yet to practice with the team. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Isaac Tesla, David Montgomery, and Sione Vaki have all noticeably been absent from team drills as well. And there are a lot of injuries, and there are a lot of reasons for the players not being there. The biggest of which is It's OTAs, right? There is just a time and a place to force players to come back, and OTAs really just isn't one of them. It's one of those things where players are going to get in shape. It's going to be some good team drills. It's going to get your hands right. It's going to get your feet right. It's going to get your mentality right. It might get you some conditioning. But at the end of the day, championships aren't won in May. They aren't won in June. They aren't won in July or even in August. They are won throughout the NFL season. And while that preparation can certainly help, OTAs are not the biggest deal. There are no contact. There is very limited full speed repetitions. It is not a big deal that some of these players aren't playing or just simply aren't there at this point. The rookies in particular, Dan Campbell mentioned just how they've had a very different offseason to NFL veterans. They, of course, played a little bit later than the Detroit Lions veterans did a season ago, whether that be bowl games, going deep into the college football playoff, or just playing a really gruesome and kind of a really struggling schedule a year ago in college. Some of those players just have a lot more tread on the tires than the NFL veterans had from a season ago, especially Tyleik Williams, who played 16 games at the college level and played all the way up through mid-January, played later than the Detroit Lions players. He's struggling with a little bit of an injury, but those players also went through combine preparations, pro day preparations, and so many other events outside of what the NFL schedule would mandate for veterans that they just have time to get their body right. That's what Dan Campbell mentioned. He said, hey, we just want these players to be right. We don't necessarily need them right now. We need them for mini camp. We need them for training camp. We need them in a week or two when things really start to ramp up. So if they're taking a few days off here and there, if they're with the team, they're learning, they're getting better mentally, but not quite getting there physically, that's okay for right now. That's what mini camp is for. That's what training camp is for. And Dan Campbell is okay letting these players kind of get a slow introduction to NFL speed. Some of the veterans that haven't been playing are, of course, due to injury. Aleem McNeil, Derek Barnes, Khalil Dorsey, David Montgomery, all struggling with knee injuries a season ago. They haven't been back yet, but they are with the team. They are still active within the organization, and they have been in the meetings. They have been helping the rookies, and they have really been around as positive impact players, even though they haven't been on the field. The biggest takeaway, though, and what I think is the most important takeaway, is that Aiden Hutchinson is in attendance. He is a player that was not listed on the number of guys that haven't been practicing. And in fact, Aiden Hutchinson not only has been practicing with the team, he has done every single NFL drill the Detroit Lions have asked of him. And not only that, he looks pretty good. Is he 100%? Probably not. Still wearing the compression leg sleeve, still maybe not totally trusting his leg entirely, but from the videos we've seen, he looks pretty good. He's moving pretty fluidly. He's really moving in a quite strong direction. And after breaking his leg just a few months ago at this point, he's looking pretty good. Is he 100%? Maybe not, but I fully expect him to be ready for minicamp, fully expect him to be ready for training camp. And when the NFL season kicks off in 3 to 4 months, the Lions are going to have their superstar edge rusher in return. So I think that is a big takeaway. I think Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport both being players that have been full go at OTAs so far is a massive boost for the Detroit Lions pass rush and should be something that Detroit Lions fans are quite excited about. With that being said, that is all I really have for you guys today. Just a quick update on who's been at training camp, who's not been playing, who's been playing. We've seen videos of Jared Goff to Sam Laporta. We've seen Jameson Williams looking pretty good. We've seen some of the rookies make some nice plays through OTAs. Isaac Tesla made some good ones at rookie minicamp. There's a lot of reasons to be excited for this team. And while OTAs aren't the biggest news, they aren't really the best opportunity to judge camp battles and positional roster spots. It is good to know who's there. It is good to know who's being cautious, who's ready to play, and who is ready to step up to the plate. And that is what we have for so far. So with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Maybe a little bit of a shorter video, but I think some quality updates and some good things to know. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions down in the comments below about the OTAs, about who's not playing, about some of the injury concerns potentially, and whether or not you're worried about the Alex Anzalone contract and that whole dispute and situation. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!